Yep, we're doing Futurama again this time. In the previous video we covered the pilot episode of Futurama with a bit of deep diving into the tiny details. But this time we're going to look at a long-term plotline that took 5 seasons in a movie to play out in its entirety. There was some heavy foreshadowing and some heavy payoff, so here it is. Why Philip J. Fry is the most important character in the Futurama universe. In the aforementioned pilot video, I noted how when Fry is falling out of his chair, there are several frames where a mysterious shadow is visible. This shadow is later easily identifiable to belonging to Nibbler. This is really the only breadcrumb in this trail for a long time, and the rest of the pilot doesn't really have much to add to the storyline besides that minute detail. Now, when Futurama was originally airing, I was like 7 years old, so I wasn't a part of any fan communities, be it on the internet or otherwise, so I don't know if the shadow was a popular talking point for fans at the time, but I do know that if it was left in a show today, it would have been all over the place. Nibbler is officially introduced a few episodes later, in Season 1, Episode 4. In this episode, he's a member of a checklist of rare animals, having also eaten the entire rest of that same checklist. He seems to have lower intelligence than most animals, but he can produce dark matter, which is the fuel the Planet Express ship runs off of. The crew would use this fuel to escape the imminent destruction of the planet they're on, and Leela decides to keep Nibbler as a house pet. 2.5 full seasons pass, with Nibbler acting solely as a cute pet with the occasional gag of him devouring large animals instantly. Then we finally get the next breadcrumb in this story arc. After earning the title of dumbest pet in show at a pet show, Nibbler runs away from Leela, out a window and into an alley. Leela then follows after Nibbler, where she eventually happens upon him wearing a full spacesuit and about to get into a ship. As he's about to leave, Leela is attacked by large flying brains, and Nibbler has mercy on her by taking her with him as he leaves Earth to fly towards his home planet. During the flight and upon arrival, Nibbler communicates with Leela using telepathy while making it seem like he's speaking English. Nibbler introduces Leela to the Council of Nibblonians, who then exposition her about the flying brains we saw earlier, telling her that there's only one person able to stop the brains from destroying everything. Philip J. Fry. Leela then questions why Fry would be the chosen one to deal with these brains. The council then explains that Fry is immune to the brain spawn because
the brain spawn suppress intelligence by attacking the delta brainwave. Every animal and robot in the universe generates this wave, as do certain trees.
Fry, however, does not.
The story continues and Fry eventually encounters the leader of the brain spawn. But it's here where I want to make a clarification about Fry's lack of delta brainwave. It doesn't make him stupid specifically or non-functional or anything of that sort. Fry is instead not bound to a static IQ, which comes with the delta brainwave. This allows for him to fluctuate between incredibly stupid or incredibly intelligent, depending on the situation. He just happens to default to stupid 99.9% of the time. I had to clarify that because the solution that Fry comes up with to defeat the leader of the brain spawn is definitely not something a moron would be able to come up with on the fly. As the brain spawn leader leaps himself, Fry, and Leela from storybook to storybook in a library, Fry breaks free due to his innate immunity. While the brain leader is still stuck, Fry writes his own book with an ideal situation, the brain simply leaving Earth behind.
The big brain am winning again! I am the greatest! Mwah! Now I am leaving Earth for no reason!
After this encounter, the Nibblonians eat the corpses of the brain spawn that fell on Earth, and Nibbler wipes Leela's memory since she was the only one to know his true identity. He then proceeds to slot back into his comfortable role as a dumb house pet. Everyone forgets about the brain spawn attack. Everyone except Fry. The third episode that ties into this puzzle is Season 4, Episode 1, Roswell That Ends Well. The crew accidentally travel back in time to 1947, in Roswell, New Mexico. Fry notes that his grandfather used to be stationed in Roswell at this time, but then the professor tells him how paradoxes work and he spends half the episode trying to protect his grandfather as to not be erased from existence. And that goes... well... However, Fry isn't immediately erased after this. The more sci-fi minded crowd now figures something must be up. While Fry is definitely stupid, he's also a fan of sci-fi. With his knowledge of science fiction, he figures that the man who died could not have been his grandfather, and that man's fiancée could not be his grandmother. When that woman eventually comes on to him, he sleeps with her. The next morning, Professor Farnsworth lets Fry know that it really was his grandmother, and the solution to the paradox that should have arisen was that Fry is now his own grandfather. With that information, the professor no longer cares about altering history. But again, I'm going to have to stop here. While the professor continuously rags on Fry for changing history, it's evident from the start of the episode, when Bender's body and Zoidberg are taken by the government, that the Planet Express crew was and has always been the aliens in Roswell. This, combined with Fry's lack of erasure when Enos died, should immediately give the viewer the knowledge that we are dealing with a linear timeline. Fry did not become his own grandfather. Fry always was his own grandfather. Okay, moving on. Another full broadcast season later, on the 8th episode of the 5th season, titled The Why of Fry, we get direct answers to the questions that have been hinted at for so long. When Fry is having a particularly bad day, Nibbler reveals himself to him. Nibbler then repeats the same process he had done with Leela seasons earlier, where he takes Fry before the Niblonian Council and tells him the truth. Again, the Council explains the lack of Fry's delta brainwave, but this time, two pieces of the puzzle come together to give an origin to his unique brainwave.
Anyway, your immunity is due to the fact that you lack the delta brainwave. It's a genetic abnormality which resulted when you went back in time and performed certain actions which made you your own grandfather.
I did do the nasty and the pasty.
Verily.
Fry is then tasked with blowing up the brain-spawn Death Star. When this becomes a suicide mission due to his Scooty Puff Jr. breaking, meaning he can no longer escape the explosion, the brains get the last laugh by telling Fry to query the all-knowing infosphere about what exactly happened to him the night he was frozen. Finally, after 5 full seasons, the shadow is both shown and explained properly. Nibbler was under the table and made sure Fry fell into that chamber. Fry is understandably pretty pissed off at this information, as he feels like his life from 1999 was taken from him, no longer by random chance, but now by another being against his will. Despite how much he prefers the future, the situation not being within his control and not being random still upsets him. While trapped in an empty dimension within the infosphere, the Big Brain explains that they can send Fry and Fry alone to that fateful night in 1999, which Fry accepts. Upon arrival, Fry confronts Nibbler and they have a lengthy discussion. This discussion eventually leads to Fry's feelings for Leela and the future, with Nibbler being able to convince Fry to take matters into his own hands and knock himself in the cryogenics tube, with the promise that he'll do his best to bring Fry and Leela together. After the OG Fry is knocked into the tube, the other fades away with one closing sentence.
Just remember that Scooty Puff Jr. sucks!
In 1,000 years, I'll get right on it.
The mission goes almost exactly the same the second time. Except, however, Nibbler, with the memory that would put elephants to goddamn shame, remembers what Fry said, this time giving him a Scooty Puff Sr. to escape. With the threat of the brain spawns dealt with and Fry returned home, Nibbler then erases the memories of the short time where Fry was the most important being in the whole universe. The last time in the series Fry's lack of delta brainwave is utilized is in the straight-to-video film Into the Wild Green Yonder. Early on in the film, Fry starts to hear constant voices in his head, which are eventually revealed to be the thoughts of those around him. A homeless man named Hutch gives him a tinfoil hat to stop the voices from driving him mad. This also blocks the Dark Ones from finding him. It's also noted by Hutch that Fry can read other mind readers' minds, but mind readers cannot read his. Later on, Fry is introduced to the Legion of Madfellows, who tell him that the fate of the universe weighs on his shoulders. To which Fry responds,
Yeah, I get that a lot.
"That's weird. Fry shouldn't be able to remember that." Anyways, Fry is unique even among the Legion due to his inability to have his mind read, which is solely due to his absent delta brainwave. In the climax of the film, Fry, now thinking himself the Dark One, comes up with a plan to kill himself with a localized Dark One killing blast. When he doesn't die, he questions himself, only for the true Dark One to be revealed. A small leech introduced in the opening scene of the film that Leela had been carrying around to stop it from going extinct. And with that, Fry's destiny as the savior of the universe is complete. Over 5 seasons in a film, this story has some pretty good peaks. With a show like Futurama, it might feel forced if all of these moments came back to back to back. But by having them spread out, it allowed for long-term storytelling to be told without smothering the rest of the series. While Fry may not always be the most important person in the universe, he was for at least 3 very key moments. Without him, the universe would have ceased to exist. Who knows? Maybe one day you or I may have a fleeting moment where just for a second, we are the most important person in the universe. Thanks for watching.